Greetings, everybody. So, today I want to talk about the basics of the Pokemon TCG. Because of the releases of sets like Prismatic Evolution, Searching Sparks, or the while ago we had the 151, those sets draw more and more attention to the Pokemon cards, but many people forget that there's still a game you can play with these cards. So I want to give you a little explanation about what card we have, how it works, and yeah, let's get right into it. So let's start with the cards we have. We have, of course, the Pokemon cards, we have trainer cards, and we have energy cards. So let's start first with the Pokemon cards. Because this is the heart, it's called Pokemon, so that's what it's all about. And just like in the video game, you want to battle your opponent with your Pokemon against his or her Pokemon. So yeah, let's see. In this case, I'm using my Charizard deck because there is actually a pre-constructed deck you can buy. So if you want to start with it, it's a great way to get into this. Let's start with the basic, and talking about basic, we're taking a basic Pokemon. In this case, we have our Charmander. So normally we cannot just put evolved Pokemon, so that's why we want to start, like we start with our Charmander, want to evolve it to Charmeleon, and after that to a Charizard. So let's take a little closer look what we have all on this. Let me look if I have maybe a English one. So we have here our Cleffer, which has up here, it has the health point, so that's how many damage it can take. Then we have the attack with the attack cost. In this case, this means there is no attack cost, other like on this Charmander who needs 2 fire energies to make an attack. And then we have down here a little bit more information. We have on the left, let me see if I can make it better focus. Yes, perfect. So on the left we have the weakness. We have different types, and most of the Pokemon, we have Dragon Pokemon as well, they have no weakness in the format right now. So we have the weakness right here, which means it doubles the damage you will be dealt. And like a few Pokemon, they have something called resistance, which lowers the damage you get by 30. So double damage when you have a weakness, and minus 30 when you have a resistance. So let's start back with our Pokemon here. So I told about Charizard. This deck, Charizard is our main attacker, which means we want to get this Pokemon out as fast as possible, so, because it just deals the most damage. Then we have here, we have our Radiant Charizard, which is more like a little backup. It's a little special one. I'm not going to get too deep into this because all of them Radiant Pokemon will rotate it out soon. And another kind of Pokemon we have here are our supporter Pokemon, which brings us different benefits and maybe sometimes drawing more cards or gaining the upper hand in a battle. So like my Pidgeot here, it allows me to get any card out of my deck once per turn. Votum let me draw 3 more cards, but then end turn. Serendipity let me draw 3 cards if in the last turn one of my Pokemon got knocked out, and my Luminion here allows me to get one supporter card out of my deck. And talking about supporter cards, we have to talk about trainer cards. So speaking about the trainer cards, we have 4 different categories. So up here we have the supporter card, which have great effects, but you can only play them once per turn. Then we have here the item card, and as you can see, the item card are the biggest pile, in one of the biggest pile, even compared to the Pokemon, it's pretty almost the same. And you can play as many as you want under normal circumstances in your turn. They have all kinds of effects, bringing cards back into their game or setting up your bench better, etc., etc. They have like so many, it would be too long. Then we have tool cards here. Tool cards will be attached to your Pokemon and will grant them better stats, or they would deal more damage, or special abilities, all kinds of stuff. And then we have the stadium card. Just like it says, it affects the whole battlefield, the stadium where you are making your battle. Let's put it that way. So, and then there's one more thing. This one is pretty quick. We have the energy cards here. So the energy cards are important to fuel, which I mentioned earlier, the attack of your Pokemon here. Like for my Charizard, I need 2. And basic energy cards are the only one you can put as many as you want in your deck. But it's important, it has to be a basic. For example, we have here, we have a special energy, which, like every other copy in the deck, you can only have 4 times. For example, here I have my good old Arven. That's 4 times Arven. That's all I can have in my deck. 4 times I can have this card. Let me see, do I have another one in the items? No, I have like 3 Buddy Puffin. So yeah, that's about the trainer cards and the energy cards. Let's talk about a little bit the deck itself. So we have 60 cards here, and as mentioned earlier, you can have 4 copies of any card except the energy cards. So what does that in particular mean? So for example, you have like another Charmander, but you can't only put 4 Charmander, so it's the name up here. For example, Dusknoir. If there is another Dusknoir you want to put in, you can only have 4 Dusknoir. It doesn't matter if it's another ability or another attack. If up there we have Dusknoir, you can only have up to 4 Dusknoir in your deck. So that's the limitation. Another limitation, which is still good to mention, are the ace-back cards. So the ace-back cards are powerful cards. They come in all kinds of variation. We have item cards, we have energy cards, we have stadium cards. So, and here says there you can't have more than 1 ace-back card in your deck. So yeah, that's the roundup of the deck. 60 cards, 4 of every copy except basic energy, as much as you want, and 1 ace-back, and the Radiant, of course. But as I said earlier, I'm not going to talk too much about them because they're going to be irrelevant soon. So we talked enough about the cards and the deck, so now it's time to tell you how to play actually the game. So first you want to shuffle, like in every other TCG or card game as well. You need and want to shuffle your deck as good as possible. So give it a good shuffle. We don't have to make this too complicated now because this is just for showing you. And after you're done with the shuffling, you offer your opponent, and your opponent can cut it. That means your opponent puts a little piece of your deck, maybe it's just a little bit, maybe it's 50-50, maybe it's most of the deck, takes it and puts the other part on it. Another thing is if your opponent shuffles your deck, you are also allowed to cut your deck. So just imagine your opponent shuffles your deck and your opponent hands it back over to you. You are allowed to cut it as well. So shuffling, and before we even start with our game preparation, we have to decide who goes first. We have a coin toss, which is like not really the thing people really do, because it's depends. It's like heads up, who throws it, how throws it. Like the coin toss is not 50-50. It can screw you up. So people decided that a dice is way more fair. So how does this work? We have the even numbers 2, 4, and 6 are tails, and the uneven 1, 3, 5 are tails. So let's say we make the dice roll. Our opponent says heads, we throw, it's tails. So we are now deciding who goes first. And for demonstration purpose, I go first in this one. Now we actually going into the game. We drawing cards now. We start with 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Important here, in your first hand, you need to have a basic Pokemon. Because as mentioned earlier, you cannot just put evolved Pokemon to your bench. In this case, we have 2. We have our Charmander and we have Rotom. Where we start, so right now we are in the game preparation. So the match started, but let's say the game as itself hasn't started now. So when we start like this, we put them face down, and after that we put our prize cards. But one more thing I want to show you. So if this would have been our hand and we would have had a card with no basic Pokemon in our hand, like this, we have one Pokemon which is not a basic, you have to evolve it, and we have a bunch of item cards here which are all useless for us now. And now we have a so-called mulligan, which means we put our cards back in the deck, shuffle again, and for every mulligan we have, our opponent is allowed to draw one more card. We shuffle, 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 again cutting. But let's take this as our start hand. So we put Charmander and we put Rotom on the bench. Just like in the video game, we have one Pokemon in the active spot. We have one that fights, that's out. The other one, like still in your team in the Pokeball, and they kind of inactive, but let's talk about that later. So we have now our Pokemon set. That's all we can do. And after that, we place down our prize cards. Some space here. It's 6 prize cards. And another parallel to the video game, it's like your opponent's team. So in best case, if you play with another friend of yours. Your friend probably will have a team of 6. We're not talking about some bug catchers in the beginning or whatever. 6 Pokemon is the maximum. So every time you defeat a Pokemon, you take a prize card. So now we have our Pokemon set, prize cards, then handshake, fist bump, whatever. We start the game. So we have won the coin toss. We decided to go first. And that means we reveal our cards and our opponent also. And first thing ever, you start with drawing a card. That's everything you do. So now we have energy cards, we have a supporter, we have a item card. So these two are now not very interesting for us. So let's focus on this. Supporter cards are not allowed to be played in the first turn. So this one is useless as well. The only thing we can play right now is our Buddy Puffin. It's a item card, but let me search for a 2 Pokemon, basic Pokemon with 70 or less HP. So depending on what our opponent has, and if you think my Charmander will get knocked out, you want some backup, of course. And since we can have 2, we want to try to set up for another supporter Pokemon. After that, item is played. It gets to the discard pile, and we shuffle our deck again. Put it back. You can offer to let your opponent cut again, and so you cut. So right now we have 3 cards which are not helpful. So the last thing we can do here with our hand now is attaching a energy card. So let's do this. We can attach 1 energy card by hand once per turn. And that's almost it. But we still have our supporter here. In this case, it's Rotom, and with its ability Instant Shot, it allows me to draw 3 new cards. Excuse me, but my turn ends. If you have a bunch of Pokemon with abilities, which can be sometimes confusing because not every ability ends the turn, just this specific one. You want to keep track of which abilities you have played. So some people just turn it like this, or some put a coin to mark it. It's a little trick. So it's important to keep track of your abilities. So now I'm playing my instant charge. I draw 3 new cards, and it's my opponent's turn. He makes his turn. It's my turn now. We draw another card now. It's another basic, and since we don't have it, let's play another basic on this one. And now we are allowed to play our first supporter. In this case, it's gonna be Alvin, or Pepper, what they call it in German. We can now look for a tool and a item card. So that's now from our supporter. We can't play any supporter now, and we have those two. Again, we play the card, it goes to the discard pile. Boom, it's done. So now, because we had the ability, we have a nice hand full of options what we can play. So still, we want to have our Charmander evolve to a Charizard. So that now we have something little bit special here. Let's show. First of all, we want to get a Charizard to our hand. Hyper Ball. It allows me to get any Pokemon from my hand when I discard 2. So I'm going to discard these 2 cards. Let's skip this shuffling now because it's a demonstration. And now we have our Charizard. Yes, normally, as I said way earlier, you have to evolve your Charmander to a Charmeleon, and then to another thing. You cannot immediately, you have to put it on the bench. Like, I'm allowed to evolve these 3 cards because they were on the bench last turn. This one just entered the game, so it can't evolve. And let's see. So just one thing, now there is a little bit special. We have the Rare Candy. The Rare Candy is a very strong card. It sees a lot of plays, and that's why I wanted to mention this. The Rare Candy allows you to skip an evolution step. In this case, I can make my Charmander immediately to a Charizard. And now, one other thing, since we played against in the discard pile with the Rare Candy, now we have another ability, which is only played when you play this card, which allows me again to look in my deck and look for up to 3 energies and put them on my Pokemon. I put one on my Charizard, I put another one on my Charmander, and now I can't play this ability anymore from this Pokemon. If you play another, okay, that's fine. And now we have 2 energies on my Charizard, and now we have enough energy to make an attack. And let's say my opponent has something weak, and with the 180 I can defeat the Pokemon of my opponent. Now I'm allowed to take 1 prize card. Little different is with those Pokemon, the so-called rulebox Pokemon. For example, we have Pheasantipity, maybe. Let me check in my price card. Excuse me for that. Yes. Because we have like these X Pokemon, or like the Rotom is a V Pokemon, we have this little rule box down here which says when your Pokemon EX is knocked out, your opponent takes 2 prize cards. Yes. But let's say we knocked out a normal basic, it's 2. If we have like a rule box Pokemon, you take 2 prize cards. And after your attack, your turn is done. So yeah, I think that's enough from the game preparation. Best way to learn the game is, of course, just playing it. You can play it online, or you can, of course, play it in physical form as well. Which brings me to our next point. Where can you play the game? Of course, you can try to convince all your friends to buy Pokemon cards, packs, decks, whatever, and play in your circle. But you have also the possibility to join a league. It's complete for free. It's just you go to the local store. You can look it up on the Pokemon page if there is a league near to you, a local store who offers something like this, and then you can just go there. So the league is like just like you go there and just play casually. You can trade some cards, just people who have fun with the Pokemon TCG just coming together. It's like not tournament, it's just casual play. And another thing is you get like these prize packs here for free, which is nice. get like all these nice cards. Sometimes you get like this little with the stamp and then a little bit holo. It's like a little bit different than the cards you can get in the booster packs. Just about the stamp, you know, it looks fine. It's like no non full art alta. It's just like also this one. It's just the stamp. Sometimes the Pokemon you can also have like Charizard with the stamp, stuff like this. Um, but there are also like more competitive things you can do in those shops if they offer, because most time if they offer a league, they do tournaments as well. So we have the smallest entity here are the challenges. It's like a few people. It depends on how big your community is. People come together and then we have like little tournaments. Sometimes it can be like, I don't know, the smallest is 4. So if there are 3 pe people who want to play, unfortunately they can't. So 4 has it to be at least. It can goes up and up and up, 10, 12, 16, but it's like a little bit smaller. Then we have the cup. The cup comes after it. We have bigger prize pools. You can win stuff like playmats and all kinds of that. And that's why more people coming to the cup most of the time, because it's just they know all. It's more people. It's a little bit bigger, um, and that's all of it on the local. We have like pre-releases, which is a little special. It's like also a tournament. You get like cards from a new set, build some deck with only 40 cards, and you have 4 prize cards. It's a little bit different, but that's like all from the local level here. Next level here would be the regional. So the regionals are all kind around around like Europe, America, South and North America. I think there's also a few in Oceania. I think so. Yeah. And now we are getting to where like people coming all around. Like I remember Dortmund regional, the guy who won this regional came from Japan, and there are people like hundreds of thousands. Like I think the last one was the UIYC. They had like 2,000, I think. So yeah, there are a lot of people, and there are the big guys coming. Then we have regionals, and I mentioned the international. Yes, it says international because it's like for the continent. So we have LAYC, which is Latin America International Championship, NAIC, North American International Championship, and the EUIC, European International Championship. Again, I think there's the Oceanian one. And the Asians, especially Japanese, they have like a little different system with their city leagues, but that's too much from here. And the biggest thing is the worlds, but the biggest thing, the worlds, you can only compete if you get invited, and to get invited, you have to get your invitation through a win on a regional or gaining enough points. So yeah, but I think it's a really great idea and a great thing if you just want to learn the game. Just look if there is a league somewhere in your area and meet up with some people. They are always very helpful if you new to this, and they really try to help you to get better into the game, and are willing to help you. If you don't have a deck, most of the shops they have the starter decks, like maybe the Charizard, maybe even simpler ones. If you want like a little simple, you can also look if you find someone who who is there with a few starter decks, and then you can just have a casual game and get into all of this to learn about the game, which makes fun, which is fun, which is very fun, and it gives you the opportunity to meet with new people, and if you really and to share your passion about the Pokemon cards. So yeah, I hope this video was so far helpful for you. I hope it wasn't too much. I hope I covered all of the important things. And yeah, I want to make more videos like this, not just ripping. I still want to rip. That's the thing. That's what I really want to do. But I also want to give like a little insight of the Pokemon TCG. So give me your comments on what was good, what was bad. If you like, you can leave a like, and I would really appreciate if you leave me a subscribe. And yeah, that's all of it, and see you next time. Bye.